So I have recently removed all my guitars from Reverb. It's not because of any recent price increase or any particular policy change that has happened over the last couple of weeks or so. Instead, the reason for me doing this is me finding myself at odds with the direction that I know Reverb is going to go and the factors that are impacting the decision making that Reverb is probably making right now. And I'm going to tell you how this impacts you, and you can just have this information and decide what to do with it. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Ministry of Guitar. I'm Utkarsh coming to you from Singapore. As always, if you like this particular channel, please do like, subscribe, share this video. It just helps appease the algorithm that we all, at least people on YouTube, have to appease at some point in time. Okay, let's talk about Reverb. Now, I need to delve into my experience here. I need to delve into my corporate experience here because I spent 15 years in the corporate world, culminating in ultimately heading marketing for a business that is pretty much larger than what Reverb is today. So I want to draw on that because I'm finding a very interesting parallel in something that happened and something I experienced day in and day out. In fact, for 15 years, I find a parallel between that and between what is happening with Reverb. Now, here's the thing. You can look this up on LinkedIn. My profile is very easy to find. But essentially, I was in charge of a very, very iconic American brand. Much more iconic than any guitar brand, I would say. Everyone's heard of it. Most of you have probably used it as well. Now, here's the thing. This brand was part of a bigger company that has a portfolio of brands. And this brand was acquired by the company for a very, very huge price. And what happened is once that brand was acquired for such a huge price, which was many multiples of how much that brand was actually earning on a yearly basis because it took into account brand value, future earnings, etc. What happened is that in the future, people working on the brand were always had the pressure of the brand needing to make up the money that was spent to buy the brand in the first place. Do you know what I'm saying? Because the company paid so much money for this brand, they now had to make sure the brand makes that much money for them. Simple principle to understand. I believe this is exactly what is happening with Reverb. I'll get into why. And if you think that you are not very satisfied with the way Reverb is trying to extract as much profit as possible while providing as little value as possible, I mean, think of it. They've increased their fees. They've added ways and means that you can increase the fees to them. You can give them Reverb payments. You can give them even more money for bumping. And, the service of Reverb, of course, is a little bit, not necessarily their USP, let's just say that. If you think that this is not necessarily something you like, and you think that there is hope in the future, I don't think that's the case. So let's talk about what has happened with Reverb, why they are potentially doing what they're doing now, and what the prospect for the future is. Reverb was acquired by Etsy. So much like what the brand I was telling you earlier about, in 2019, Reverb was acquired by Etsy. Etsy is a large e-commerce player. It was acquired for the amount of $275 million. Now, how big is Reverb? It was acquired for $275 million. How much money is Reverb actually making? I don't have a profit number for Reverb, but I do have a revenue number, which is how much total money, when you pay Reverb your 5% fees, how much of that adding up across everybody who's paid Reverb their 5% fees, how much is that number? That number for 2021 is about $40 million. So 40 million is the revenue, the profit will probably be lower. I don't know Reverb's profit structure. Let's just say half, which is a very high profit margin, but let's just go with that. $20 million, say $30 million. That is 1/10 of what was paid for Reverb, which was about closer to $275-300 million. Point is, the parent company of Reverb has a long way to go when it comes to recovering the amount of money that was paid for Reverb. Now, I'm not an investment banker, so I can't get into specifics of how healthy the financials are looking. But what I'm going to tell you is that they are 100% going to make sure that they recoup their investment, and their decision making will be driven by that. Now, why do I have a problem with this? I don't have a problem with capitalism. I've worked in a company for 15 years. What I have a problem with is 2 or 3 things. One is, I don't think Reverb has any competition as such, and because of that, I think they're rather complacent in not necessarily providing a lot of value to their consumers. I can bet if I was sitting in the halls or the boardrooms in which we're making decisions on Reverb, it's all about, hey, there's no competition. Let's try. Let's see if we can increase the margin from 3.5 to 5. Let's see if we can experiment from 5 to 5.5. I'm sure they're debating about this. I'm sure they're also debating, oh, we spend so much money on a cost center that is called customer service. How do we reduce the cost of that cost center? I've had these discussions multiple times in what I was working on. And it's all driven by ultimately what is the imperative of the company, driven by what's driven by what was the original intent, right? If Reverb was a private company, very purpose driven, of course, they would need to keep acquiring capital to keep the company going. But what they did is they sold out to a larger company, and now the larger company has to make Reverb fit into the bigger piece of being a profit generating entity. And if you know one thing, that the long run of startups not making profits is over because interest rates have gone up. So there was this entire period over the last 5-6 years, or even longer, because of low interest rates. You had a lot of new startups. Nobody made any money. Uber didn't make any money. Lyft didn't make any money. But now everybody has to make money. Etsy has to make money. Reverb has to make money. And Reverb has no competition, really speaking. I mean, of course, you can use eBay or whatever. But let's be clear. It's really is in a league of its own. So the point is, I am not very fond of Reverb taking such a big chunk of the pie because I do not see the value that they are providing to me, commensurate to the size of the pie that they want from my guitar sale. And I do not see anything on the horizon to challenge them. Someone could tell me, why don't you start a competitor? I don't have the entrepreneurship bug. I mean, I have the time now after no longer working in the corporate world, but it's not something for me to do. It's something for someone else to do probably. But in the absence of that, I mean, it's a great cash cow. Let's eke out. Let's see how much these guitarists will tolerate. And the thing is, we humans sometimes are very, very, we get used to it. Oh, it went up from 3.5% to 5%. I hate it. I'll complain. Some people will. But a lot of people end up just accepting pricing because you don't have no option. Where else will you sell it? So that is why my personal bias is I am not interested in Reverb taking a slice of my pie. I am not interested in a mission that does not put the consumer, the customer in the center. Currently, it is more of a profit generation in order to justify the amount of money that was paid for the valuation. Hence I'm out. I mean, there are other ways to sell guitars. I mean, the good thing for me is because I have a channel, because I have the semblance of a brand, which is me, myself, Utkarsh Mohan, and my Ministry of Guitar. I do direct deals a lot, and I do direct deals even over the internet. Both me buying from someone and me selling from someone. I mean, Reverb's big value add is that you have seller protection or buyer protection rather. But when you're dealing with few trusted folks, that is not required. And if there's opportunities that I'm losing out because I can't avail of buyer protection, or maybe somebody doesn't want to deal with me because they would like to have buyer protection, so be it. I don't want to pay whatever 5% plus all the other pieces of the pie, and especially if you are in a non-USD country, it's the numbers go crazy. So that's me. I'm out. I'm not putting my guitars on Reverb anymore. This is not to say that you shouldn't. This video is simply for you to be aware that this is the way probably that Reverb is making its decisions, and you could be fine with it. You could be fine. Okay, let me put 5% Reverb fee, another whatever percent, 4% or whatever the number is. Please correct me if I'm wrong. For boosting, for bumping. And then you have another some money if you do it for Reverb payments. You could be okay with that. You could be okay with 10% plus of the price going. I am just not. All right. I hope this was at least informative to you at some level. Till next time.